We're going to start right over here with poor Elizabeth. So if you will come this way, I will tell you the story. I think everybody ought to know it by now, don't you?
I don't know. You got a good friend there.
Yes, that's right. You have to move in or you won't hear, I think. Mrs. Hazlitt in Philadelphia had 2 daughters, Maria and Elizabeth. And I believe that Bob Browerhill met Elizabeth in Philadelphia. Mrs. Hazlitt was not pleased with this. So she moved out here to what is called the second house from the church, which I think may well be that old one up in the, you can't see it, it's up at the intersection. And I can't think of the people's names who live there. You know, don't you? Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, but Bob apparently came along, and he had connections with a woolen mill that was at Glenville. And he and Elizabeth eventually married. He was a bartender in the Russellville Inn. He was also supposed to be a very, very nice man, very polite, very well spoken. So Elizabeth was very happy with him, and they had a room across from the inn in Russellville. They weren't of the same faith, but he went to church with her, and every Sunday he would take her by the arm and escort her up to take communion. Then he had to go back to England to get new patterns for the woolen mill. While he was gone, Maria and Elizabeth both died. I imagine it was, I don't know, diphtheria or something. Anyway, as soon as he heard it, he came back and he came out to the cemetery, and here was Marie's stone here, just a little common marker for Elizabeth. So he just took care of that. He got a new stone for Elizabeth. He put poor Elizabeth on it, pauvre in French, and it's just a little bit taller than Maria's. So he took care of that in the end. He got even with them. Now then, the Boyds are right here. James and Mary Ann. James was a member of the convention in framing the present Constitution and was a representative in the Pennsylvania legislature for several years. He was an associate judge in Chester County and 40 years ruling elder in Faggs Manor. Now that's another one. Okay, wait a minute. Do we have anything else for Boyd? No. Okay, and over here is another Hazlitt. And he was a surgeon in the Union Army, right over here, that tall, pointed one. He was a surgeon in the Union Army, during the Civil War. He was killed at Chaplain Hills, Kentucky at age 34. Now we go up over here. This is this grave of Samuel Blair. And I will read what it says. Here lieth the body of the Reverend Samuel Blair, who departed this life the 5th day of July, 1751. He was aged 39 years and 21 days. In yonder sacred house I spent my breath. now silent, mouldering, here I lie in death. These silent lips shall wake, and yet declare a dread amen to truths they published there. And as you all know, he was the first pastor of the church. Now, we need the Rustons, which are right here someplace, I think. All right, Job was born in 1714. He died in 1785. And he bequeathed to his executives, Thomas Love and James Boyd, £100 to be invested so that the interest may be paid toward the support of a gospel ministry in the meeting house of Faggs Manor in Londonderry Township, Chester County. The interest was used for many years as directed, and the principal was used in the erection of the present church building. Now his wife is another story. He was the first name on the deed from Christina, who was the great-granddaughter of William Penn. And Mary Stone said, she bore unto him in 22 years 12 children. The dame that lieth underneath this tomb had Rachel's face and Leah's fruitful womb, Abigail's wisdom, Lydia's open heart, with Martha's care and Mary's better part. I don't know what that means, but that's all right. And they had 2 sons here. Isaac died at 1 year and Joseph at 2 years. And on the Blairs, I missed this, they had 10 children. 8 grew up and 4 daughters married ministers. Now, if we can come this way, I don't know if I can find it now, but we'll look.
It's pretty well marked. And it's been there, the original. That one might be. That probably is, yeah.
Okay, this is the stone, the grave. You walked all this way, and I only have a little bit to tell you. But we have some more over there. William and Mary Dorman. Mrs. Dorman buried 6 daughters. 1 was 3 months, 2 were 3 years, 1 was 15, 1 was 29, and 1 was 59. And she outlived them all.
Oh, yeah. Are those buried right beside her?
Probably. Yep. So that's something good we have too. That we don't have all those babies now like we used to. Now then, the Chub and the Dale. Up a little farther, you probably don't want to walk that far, but there you may have heard of the Chub and the Dale stones. It'll be in with the ministers' things, with the Hosteters. Later on you will see it. They were brother and sister-in-law, we'll say, 2 families. One had 1 child, the other didn't have any. And all 5 of them went for a trip down south, and they ran off a bridge somehow, and they all drowned. So they
over Christmas or something, wasn't it? Or?
I don't know. I thought it was in summer, but maybe not. Yeah, you think that was icy?
That's what I understood.
Well, that could be. That makes it even
Well,
better. That would have given me another line on here.
And the ice was terrible.
Yeah, in July.
Well, anyway, they brought them all back here, which I guess it was several days before they actually got them out of the water. They brought them back here for the funeral. And Dave Light's father then was in charge of the cemetery. And he came over and he was having a fit. He's walking around, shaking downstairs, looking up. I don't know if we can put 5 caskets here or not. It just might cave in. But it didn't, so that took care of that. Then right over, can you see the Thompson? Right up the driveway, there's Thompson. Well, that is my family, my parents and my sister. She was 8 years old. You know that today is August the 26th. She died August the 26th in 1932 of polio. And apparently it was the week of celebration. And they canceled celebration. And I thought, well, wasn't that nice? That everybody was so upset, I guess, that they just canceled. Well, then I found out, no, that probably was not the reason. it was because they didn't want anybody else to get it. And since I had been swimming with her and I had slept with her all the time she was incubating, I think I was Typhoid Mary for a while. And I wasn't allowed to go anyplace or be with anybody. But as you see, I didn't get it. So I have to be honest, I often wondered why was it Alice Joyce and not Nancy? I think it would have been better had it been the other way around because she was perfect. And my mother said, of course she wasn't. And I said, well, she wasn't. I'm sure that's why she died. She never did anything wrong. I don't think she ever got spanked. However,
Are you saying
I just said it.
didn't get spoiled?
All right, now over here is the Indian. And the Indian plot. I think. Come on, let's look. You may know that they think there are Indian bones over there where there are no stones. I'm not sure, but I think they were widening the road or making the road and they hit bones. So they figured that this was an Indian burial ground. So this stone all the way over here was an Indian orphan, I believe. And he worked for someone in this area. And he was killed in a farm accident. So when he died, they didn't really know what to do, so they gave him a name and they buried him over here. And that's why he's over here all by himself. I thought it was Steve, yes. So he was only 35 years old, and from what I gathered, I don't think he knew much about his parents or any connections. So hopefully there are some other Indians buried right here, I don't know. And he's not really all alone. Of course, he's not alone anyway, we know that.
Well, Dave said that I think they were digging for it was either widening the road they were digging.
Or maybe to open a grave, I don't know.
And they came into a lot of Indian artifacts in this area.
Oh, there's other things beside the bones.
Yeah, they came into Indian
okay.
artifacts, yeah. Which they buried, which
and they buried, right.
They buried with the Indians, yeah. So there's somewhere around here, there's some arrowheads or something.
Arrowheads.
No, I'm sure, lots of things here, yeah. Probably some pottery, yeah.